Welcome to today's episode. I invite you to settle in, not just with your mind, but with your whole body. Feeling the ground beneath you, the rhythm of your breath, maybe even noticing the temperature of your inhales in through your nostrils and how it changes when you exhale. Noticing the textures, sounds, sensations of this moment. I'm just beginning here from a place of a little bit more presence, even if it's 1% more. This podcast is about coming back to our senses. It makes sense that we forget, and there are invitations in just the very next moment for us to remember again and again and again. So often, remembering this moment of the felt sense can be overwhelming. There can be huge feelings of uncertainty. And there's just an invitation from me and from this space here to just sit with this together without any kind of fixing energy or forcing, just being. Maybe noticing the power of just being. Most mornings I try to do a practice called morning pages, which is a kind of stream of consciousness writing practice. And sometimes I don't do it in the morning. It can be other times throughout the day. It comes from Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. And it was once described to me by a podcast, I believe by Chetna Mehta, who goes by Mosaic Eye on their podcast and their Instagram. They had said that morning pages are like turning on the faucet in an old house, maybe even an abandoned house. So first all this kind of gooky water might come out and it might sputter a bit, and then eventually it runs clean. It can serve as a really wonderful practice to locate oneself and to find out where we're at. And something that often comes up, especially if it's in the morning, are dreams, like coming from that weird land that we don't often talk about, not all of us anyway, of the dreamland, and what our unconscious is saying, what's going on in our psyches, maybe what hasn't been digested or is being asked to be looked at. And lately my dreams have been really mechanistic. There's kind of like a lot of to-dos and tasks and math and full-on conversations, kind of like stress dreams, which thanks a lot unconscious. I do not appreciate that. It's a lot of things that I need to get done but haven't fully done. And I've been sitting with that, recognizing, okay, something stands in the way of doing the thing. And the way is the path. If we were to hold that, right, like whatever is in the way is the path, then the resistance is what is here and needs to be looked at. So when I really sat with that, like I invited that piece to come on in, take a seat, offered it some tea, I noticed that my body calmed down a bit. There was this tension, and suddenly there was a little bit of release. When I listened closely, I heard things that most of us face, like, I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm behind, I need to be doing more. It's really painful to look at those feelings, experiences, worries, and deep fears right in the face, like shame. There's all these ways that we run, that we hide, that we numb. in part, it can be so easy to not live in reality, to not live in the truth of the moment because of the pain and how challenging it is to be in distress. And yet, the paradox is that when we face the pain, sometimes the pain eases. To give an example of this, my inner conversation went, for what reason are you feeling this? For what reason are you feeling this? With a kind of hand on my heart, just trying to be kind as if I was talking to the smallest version of myself, like little 2-year-old me. And answers emerged, as they do when safety is present. And all of these things came up for me around wanting to prove mattering, wanting to prove belonging, to have a right to be here. When I sat with that long enough, when I sat with the discomfort of those sensations and those experiences, I came to a recognition that there are essential questions underneath those fears, like, what do I have to offer? And how best can I serve, and how best can I be of use in this flourishing, positive, freeing way, as opposed to that coming from a constricted place, which was a total turnaround from the morning. It really makes me think and dream of the importance of inviting ourselves into presence, and the importance of inviting ourselves into experiencing distress, experiencing pain, and facing what's happening, maybe even especially when things are chaotic, when things are fast, when things are rampant. A lot of the times in that frame of mind, it's called monkey mind. I've worked with a lot of people and I've experienced it myself that say, I'm not meditating, I'm not being mindful because my thoughts are just churning. But even in the title of a meditation or mindfulness practice, it says what it is. It's a practice. This being human isn't about being perfect or even about being here in every single moment, right? Because every moment before this moment is also in the present moment. So a lot of the times there can be feelings and sensations here. There's a potential even that if we're trying to be in this moment without feeling, that we can actually be bypassing our reality by trying to just be here now, be here now. I love Ram Dass. And I also think it's so important to be with the reality of our emotionality. The more I'm with the reality of my emotionality, the less reactive I can be. If we're in this reactive, muddy river place, we can keep running through the shallow enough river where the water is muddy and we can just totally not see through it. Or we can stop and wait until the mud kind of slowly drifts on down to the bottom, and then we can see clearly and be able to make the next step forward in a way where there's more awareness. There's no right or wrong. Whatever choice is right for you and me is maybe right for me or you in the moment. We need both systems of engagement, the ramped up fast, and then we also need that kind of present slowfulness. The more we attune to ourselves to see what is needed in that moment, the more there can be recognition at the speed at which we're moving, where we are first, locating ourselves, and then we can have choice instead of the tunnel vision of this is the way it's supposed to be. If I go to you and you're in a fast place and I'm like, slow down, breathe, that might not actually be really helpful. I might want to meet you first where you're at, and then we can kind of gear down, to third gear, second gear, then roll it on back to first. But when we try to invalidate ourselves by saying, do this opposite thing, it can really evoke a lot of constriction and shame in ourselves. Sometimes I, like most people, don't want to be slow. Sometimes being slow means I have to feel what has not been felt. Sometimes if I'm slow in this moment, then it's overwhelming. And when I move fast, it's overwhelming in a way that might be more comfortable. I imagine a lot of people who move very fast are highly sensitive. I work with a lot of neurodivergent people. I'm neurodivergent myself. And it can be definitely a superpower. And at times it can feel like really challenging to be able to manage the different speeds. There are some things that have been really helpful in terms of coming to senses and feeling like that's a really wonderful priority instead of something that takes away autonomy, it adds in freedom. And one of the things is recognizing that there's actually strength in sensitivity, right? So I'm sensitive, I feel everything. And at certain points in life, from a very young age, I started to hear that the world or other people thought that that was weakness and therefore bad. And so I, like many people, started to shelter my heart. Coming to our senses is this undefensiveness experience of the heart, the recognition of how beautiful it is to cry when something is sad, to get angry when something is unjust, to sleep when you're tired, to eat when you're hungry. And it can feel like, what a luxury to be in sync with what is real. You know? It is also so healing. One of the nutrients for aliveness around this for me is ritual. Rituals can be a way to create sustainment and containment for those sensitive parts as they're reawakening and kind of remembering their tenderness, you know? And one way I've been doing that over the last couple months is I've been making fires in a fireplace almost every day. And something about that feels deeply ancestral, deeply necessary. I feel like I'm in this kind of circle, this bubble of protection and co-creating this element of fire. And it's really beautiful to behold. And then it's really enlivening and empowering to see the flames, you know, like I feel like we're all like moths to flames, us human. It can feel really grounding to just watch the flames. Utilizing these kinds of rituals, whether it's making a fire or writing a poem or writing a song or dancing, there's a kind of reclamation of existence. There's a kind of sense of, I have, you know, a right to be here. Writer and performance artist Alok Vadmian says that poetry is the language of vulnerability. I believe that to be so for most creative expression. Coming to our senses is not just recognizing our feelings, it's recognizing them and then also acknowledging that we inherently have things that need to be moved through. We listen and we're also saying all of these feelings have a space to belong. Sometimes we need them to live outside of ourselves. By coming to our senses, we're breaking the cycle of smallness, constriction, being bound by life and our conditioning. I've learned that when I don't face my own hidden fears, you know, whether it's my distrust of humanity or being heard or my own internalized biases, I will unconsciously seek out people who hold those beliefs and enact them onto me. When I disown parts of myself, I make myself small. And when I see those parts, when I really see those parts, I won't need to choose relationships or situations that hurt me, that constrict me in a way that is destabilizing and disorienting, to reflect the places in me back that I don't accept. When we look at what hurts, we heal. When we tend to what hurts, we heal. The physician and specialist on addiction, Gabor Mate, says, do not ask why the addiction, but why the pain. And this feels relevant because so many of us have an addiction to moving fast, to numbing, to productivity, to materialism. And I'm not here to say that that is wrong. I'm here in it with you, a mouse over here chasing after the cheese on a stick in front of my face. And sometimes it feels good and fun and enlivening. And there's freedom in the ability to have choice between these energies, switching from high to low, going from relaxing to running. And if that's the case, that we want the ability to be flexible in our responses, then one of the ways to be with this too is to ask ourselves, what is this constriction? What is this fear? What is this self-doubt? What is this hesitation? Or whatever experience you're having, externalizing it, putting a name to it, and getting really curious about it, being in conversation with it. So the invitation here is to be in relationship with every single part of yourself as if it belongs, because it does. And as you do, watch how you stop choosing smallness and constriction. Watch how you start choosing life. Here's a poem about the transience of emotionality by Rumi, and it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.